Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. I just want to thank you all for being so patient with me as I get these up. I've been having a lot of technical issues lately, so now I'm like, okay, it's game time. But today is our official first day of our faith challenge. Yay, this is amazing. And I just felt like God wanted me to start with the title, Faith Doesn't Settle. Like, faith does not settle for what it sees, for what's happening in the natural, like, especially when it's the opposite of what you see, it doesn't settle. So we're actually going to be going to 1 Samuel for this. We're not going to read the entire passage, but I am going to encourage you to read the first chapter of Samuel. It's extremely powerful. For those of you who aren't familiar with the story of Samuel, is his mom was Hannah. And Hannah was believing God to have a child. And what happened was everybody around her was getting pregnant. And she still was like, okay, God, like, I'm not getting pregnant. This is what I was created for. I was created to have kids. You gave me the desire to have kids. Where is my child? And so every single day she was going up to the temple, she was going up to the house of the Lord and literally pouring her heart out and saying, God, like, I'm upset, like everybody else is having kids and my womb is still barren. What's really interesting about this story is that even though she was upset, she didn't allow what was happening in the natural to, one, affect her relationship with God, and two, prevent her from continuing to pursue that desire. And I just want to encourage you, especially for those who are waiting for God to make this promise come to pass in your life. I just want to tell you, like, the best thing you can do is continue to go before him, because what the enemy tries to do is get us to be like, well, it must not have been God's will for our lives. Like, it would have been so easy for Hannah to be like, oh my gosh, God is shutting this door for me not to have kids, so I guess I can't have a child, and that's just God's will for my life. And I've heard that so many times, and excuse my language, but I'm going to call BS on that, because that's a really demonic Christianese cliche thing to say when, one, we're waiting for years for something to come to pass, and two, just to chalk it up to, oh, well, this is just what it is. This can be applied to healing. This can be applied to relationships, deliverance, having kids, financial breakthrough, whatever it is. You can apply Hannah's story to that. So really quick, we are actually going to go down to verse 10. So remember, 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 10. This is still talking about Hannah. And it says, she was deeply distressed and prayed to the Lord and wept bitterly. And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your servant and remember me and not forget your servant, but will give to your servant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life. Y'all, that's so much faith. She was like, okay, God, I'm here. If you give me this beautiful gift, I will give this gift back to you for the rest of his life. You can have him. I just want to receive it, and I'll give it back to you. That's faith. That's powerful. And so what was happening in Hannah's process, like I said, once you go through it, you'll see, is that other women who were actually getting pregnant around her were being nasty to her. And it's like, not only was she having that emotional turmoil from not having a child then, but she was also dealing with other people coming at her and tormenting her externally for also not having a child. And what was beautiful is we can see later in verse 19, it says that the Lord remembered her. And in 20, it says, in due time, she conceived and bore her son and called his name Samuel, for she said, I have asked for him from the Lord. So this is, like I said, beautiful. Hannah did not settle for what was happening. Now, she wasn't holding her stuff together all the time. She wasn't happy all the time. But every single day, for years, she went to the temple of the Lord and she just poured her heart out before him and was like, God, this is the desire of my heart. I know you created me for this. I know you gave me the desire for this, and it is not happening. And not only is it not happening, but there are other people around me who are getting it, and they're tormenting me with their promises. And I'm still sitting here waiting for you to deliver. And so I want to encourage you today, if this is you, pull a Hannah. Continue to go before God. Continue to weep. Continue to pour your soul out. Like in 1 Samuel, it says she poured her soul out to the Lord. She was weeping. She had anxiety. She was distressed. But she continued to pour her heart out to God, saying, God, like, where's this thing that you promised me? This is what you created me for, and it hasn't come to pass yet. What is happening? And so I want to encourage you, like I said, pull a Hannah. Get before God, but don't let what is happening in the natural determine the outcome of God's promise for your life. I think that's really, really important. Now, we're going to talk in a few days about how certain things can interfere with promises, such as generational curses, obedience, things like that, because all of those come into play. But I have seen, so many people just waiting. I've been one of those people who has waited for years for a promise from God. And it's one of those things where it's like, how bad do you want it? Are you willing just to give up? Like I said in the intro, are you willing just to give up just because you had one test and it was just like, oh, well, God, I guess this wasn't your will. Okay. Are you willing to keep going when you know? I always like to say this, is that I know that I know that I know. Just like I know Jesus is real, I know Jesus is alive. I know that I know that I know this is what God put in my heart. And if you still don't know if this is what God wants you to do, whatever you're believing for, take some time, pull a Gideon, ask for confirmation. Gideon was constantly like, okay, God, if this is from you, if this is you, make the fleece wet. If this is you, make the fleece dry. Like, God would much rather you seek him and ask for confirmation, get in his face, than you just saying, okay, well, this is whatever. So I want to encourage you, take that time today. Your challenge is literally pull a Hannah, pull a Gideon, get in God's face and say, God, I'm here and I'm not giving up on this thing. Where is it? I'm not giving up on this thing. And if you have to weep bitterly, if you have to just pour your soul out before him, just do it. Because like I said, he'd much rather do that, have you do that with him, than you just peace out and, say, well, the Lord gives, the Lord takes away. This wasn't God's will for my life. Those like Christianese things just really bother me, because there are so many people who gave up on their promises too early because they believe that saying that, one, it was from Job when he was tormented. Two, it's just one of those things that it's like, well, I guess this wasn't God's will for my life. If you are believing God for healing and you really don't believe that God's will for your life is for you to be healed, you don't know who God is. And that's just what it is. So stand firm. Read 1 Samuel chapter 1 and also read about Gideon. Okay? Have a good day.